Hi, Louise.
Hi, Sarah.
Well, here we are again to talk about Relinquished, the Politics of Adoption and the Privilege of American Motherhood by Gretchen Sisson. We are discussing part three, The Family My Heartbreak Made Possible, which even that
Yeah,
title of the chapter is
yeah,
gut-wrenching, isn't it?
it really is. She starts off, how much did you highlight and how long is this? That's the question. It's
I highlighted a lot
boom,
there.
right
Uh,
away.
yeah, I mean, because it's all about open adoption, really, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I
Um,
learned a lot in it actually. I like this, just the opening. We'll just do the opening. Every private adoption, there is one shared moment. Most frequently, it's at the hospital within hours after giving birth. Sometimes it's at the adoption agency or perhaps in the back room of a church. This is the moment when a lawyer or a social worker's hands the mother a legal document to begin the process of terminating her parental rights. Whatever brought her to that moment, she takes a pen and signs it. Then,
then she's, a surprising number of the women could not remember signing their papers. I mean,
right.
blocking
Yeah.
out the
How much do you remember after you had a baby? It's like you're caught up in so much happening,
right.
and they didn't really understand legally.
I mean, it's designed that way.
Yeah.
Um, because really, if it were designed for to take care of the baby, what is in the best interest of the baby, even if it's going to be relinquished, is to breastfeed and have
Yes.
a couple of days of getting that nutrition from
Yeah.
their mother. But so this is just nefariously designed so that
Yes.
the woman doesn't change her mind. It's really, you know what I mean? Like as we've been studying this stuff, realizing the sinister
Yeah.
nature of it all is
It's like they all have the same story. Like they're all recovering from pregnancy and birth. They're starting a lifelong process of understanding what adoption will mean for them and their child. To begin, they are mourning. It's like
right.
it's no matter what they went into it thinking, they don't realize. Some do realize they've had children, but they don't realize what's going to happen. What are their legal rights? They don't have that many in open adoption.
There really aren't from
No.
um and it just seems like the prevailing theme is that they relinquish due to desperate circumstances, mostly
Yeah.
financial or being young, whatever that is. It's a desperate
Yeah.
circumstance that later most of them have said, I wish I hadn't done
Yeah.
this. And these are people that were in open adoption because I think
Yeah.
at the end of the chapter, she kind of goes into that. But there are a few things I wanted to read. Like one of them, they're talking about the emotional trajectories of relinquishing. Within the complexity is a great deal of evidence that for most birth mothers, relinquishment is fraught with grief, ambiguous loss, mourning, shame, regret, and isolation,
Mhm.
most overwhelmingly in the early days after the adoption. Certain practices make that emotional trajectory worse in ways that are quite predictable. Mothers who felt pressure from their agency or
Mm.
attorney, or
Yes.
mothers who knew their babies went to foster care rather than directly to an adoptive home were more likely to experience grief and regret.
Uh, and some of them felt super bad, like they did want to take it back,
Mm-hmm.
but they felt super bad for the families that
Right
were
there.
adopting
Yeah.
because they got close to them through it.
Yeah. And then, and there's like a power dynamic really, because these are the people that have your child. So you kind of want to
Right.
please them.
Yeah, get
Um,
a little bit enamored. Sometimes they're a little bit older with more money.
yeah.
Some of that was
Mo
in there too.
Always with more money. I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
but like always with more money. There was one thing that I thought was made me think of our mothers. Birth mothers in closed adoptions compared with those in open adoptions report more traumatic dreams, sleep disruption, and a surrealistic
Mm.
sense discon disconnection. They consistently report that they are unable to get on with their life. That highlights what I always
Yes.
say and
We
believe, which is, you know, like when people, oh, I was probably better off not being raised by my birth mother because blah blah blah. But I
I
do
met her
think,
and yeah.
yeah, and I do think that trauma in a closed adoption, like she just said, really
Oh
shapes
yeah,
someone and affects their mental health.
of course, it stops you. It like stunts you at that level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't even imagine the despair, you know. Um,
Yeah. So
it's sad because they said even in the 80s and 90s, supposedly it's open adoption, but the relinquishing mother basically just got to choose the parents, but there was really no rights after that. It's kind of up to the family.
yeah, and then as we've
Yeah.
discovered throughout this chapter, this sampling that Gretchen has done,
Yes.
a lot of the families kind of don't keep up their
Yeah. There,
bar end of the bargain. It does say here, as openness varies, so do mothers' feelings about their adoptions. A 2014 study found that approximately 75% of birth mothers with some degree of contact with their child viewed their emotional health as very poor or
mm,
neutral in the first year post
yeah.
placement.
Yeah, and they also have she got into something which I kind of thought about before, but I never really knew there was a thing for it, the honeymoon period.
Hmm.
So at the beginning, you think I've done the right thing. I'm in close contact with these people. Sometimes the people turn out. We did read about somebody last chapter who turned out to be very incorporating, but that's not mostly the case. And then the honeymoon period wears off. They have different political beliefs, sometimes
Different
different
religious beliefs.
backgrounds.
Yeah.
And then the mother also feels weird, like you're visiting the child,
Yes.
and it's this little like one woman had a child that she wanted to know her child, but the child wasn't adopted into the same mixed race family. So like it was became a very white child and didn't bond, and she didn't know how to share her culture. I mean, it's like you're in this weird position to be like kind of a, what if I come to your house once a year and like hang out? It's not like
Yeah.
you have any authority.
Well, here they go. I really, this was a page that for some reason just jumped out at me, as did the postscript, right? The footnote at the
Right.
bottom. Most relinquishing mothers do not learn until after the adoption is completed that adoption carries risks for the
Mm,
adopted person, but that awareness often increases their commitment to openness. Research has found, and we know this, research
yep.
has found adopted people experience increased rates of depression, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, substance use disorders, and suicide attempts. And these findings were especially common among adopted people and international and transracial. But down here is a footnote that says many birth mothers are surprised to learn about these risks as they, like so many, believe adoption to serve the best interests of children. And who can blame them when this is the
Yes.
common narrative? This got me. In
Yep.
2009, NPR ran a story with the headline, Most Adopted Children Are Happy, Healthy. While acknowledging the increased likelihood of psychological diagnoses, the article describes how adopted children do well in school and receive more attention from their parents. The source of these findings? A survey of adoptive parents reporting on their own children. Yet other academic research has shown that adoptive parents are not the best predictors of the mental and emotional well-being of their adopted child, and particularly of their adopted teen. When the
Yep.
popular press relies on the reports of adoptive parents to conclude the kids are all right, at least the adopted kids are doing okay, they are leaning into a cultural belief of adoption as what's best for children and not critically considering the best evidence.
This is why we have our podcast.
Yes,
You know,
that
I
really, really.
me too. It's all yellow, and I like that she touched upon that the mothers don't know what, I mean, because
Hmm.
we don't know. What was also fascinating about this, many of these women, so she mostly studies people who relinquish, who are relinquishing, are white, most. They don't always have a white child because the dad may be
Right.
of a different race.
Many are adopted.
Many are adopted and through foster
Hmm.
care system, and they're still under the belief that, well, I'm giving back. This was done for me. I'm doing this forward. And then they get into it and think that's when their whole fog kind of lifts. Like, wait a second. That was there was a woman who was from Colombia and she had a double whammy of like, wait, but it was too late, right? And
Hmm.
so this is I'm glad you read that because that footnote is pretty much the
Oh, it
summary of the
really.
book. I mean, this is why you and I talk about this and we have adoptive voices, right?
Yes. And this is, I mean, this whole chapter is a lot of, a lot of
Oh,
talking to these birth mothers. She also gets into the boy, that Holland case,
Oh,
that almost overturned
yes.
the Indian Welfare Act was that was these two white parents in Texas had this case was just before that was a year ago before the
Yeah,
Supreme Court. Shockingly, it did not
it did
it stayed
not pass.
intact, but
Mhm.
she where this couple had a native child and then heard that there was a new sister born and just l- basically lied and cheated their way to try to get this baby and
Yeah,
then took it all the way to the Supreme Court and
thank
based
God.
that saying that
Yeah.
it was racist law wanting to keep native children in kinship or in their tribe.
Yeah,
This white couple challenged it that it was a racist law, like just
it's
mind
mind
blowing.
blowing, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
next week we're getting really
wait,
into
I just wanted to
oh yeah,
read the
one more.
very last line of the
Oh,
chapter.
right. I have that too.
Yeah, just before we move on,
Yep,
because
it's
this was
perfect.
it's a dense and
It
intense
is.
chapter, and I know plenty of people are reading along, so you'll know what we mean. But the very last line of the chapter was, I once asked a first mother how old her daughter was. 9, she replied. I am halfway through my sentence. Then I can speak openly. That's on
Yep.
the tails of saying
Yeah.
that first mothers
18.
are afraid to speak out against adoption
Yeah.
because because of their kids and the
Yeah. A lot of
adoptive
people she
parents.
interviewed said I would like to, but I don't want to go on record because I'm
Right.
trying to see pictures,
Yeah.
get an update. The minute it's like they walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it just
it makes me sad. Yeah, she's
makes me
halfway through
mad.
it's halfway through her sentence.
Yeah, halfway through her sentence. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, next we have Sarah and we have Erica. So we're going to read 2 chapters, not our
Yep.
Sarah, but another Sarah. And we will,
Yep. Two couple short chapters and for next week.
yeah.
And yeah.
And please read along. This is so important and share this book, please, because
Yeah.
we were
Please.
talking about before we got on how important it is to share and help
Because there's
others
that one
understand.
person might tell one person,
That's
might tell
right.
another, and that's how changes
That's right.
start to happen. At least awareness.
At least awareness. Well, we have Simone next.
Yeah, this is a really
It
good
is.
one. Yeah.
See you
All
in a
right.
minute.
See you in a minute.